Total Screen proudly presents their official podcast, On Screen, with your hosts, Tyson Gifford and William Rohrig. Hello, everybody, and welcome to On Screen, the official podcast of the Total Screen. My name is Tyson.
My name is Will.
And today we've got a bunch of news, some trailers, a few things coming up on the horizon, a few key things coming up on the horizon, and we also have our featured topic for the night, Chucky kills Abigail and the Fall Monkey Detectives. To say what that actually means is that we are going to be talking about a variety of movies and shows in our On Tap segment. This is not full spoiler, so we're just going to kind of briefly going over like our impressions and stuff and a few talking points on them. And the topics we're going to be covering are Monkey Man, Boy Kills World, The Fall Guy, Chucky Season 3, Abigail, and Dead Boy Detectives. But let's get started with our On the Horizon segment. On the Horizon is where we talk about stuff coming up in the next week or so, and we're going to be starting with Paper Mario, the Thousand-Year Door, which is coming out on Thursday, May 23rd on the Nintendo Switch. This is the remaster/remake, whatever, of the GameCube game, the most beloved entry in that franchise. And, finally coming out. I know at least one person over on Game Witness that could not be more enthusiastic about it. It's just impossible. This is the same person who we always apologize to every time there's new Star Trek news.
Right. Yeah.
But he is psyched for it, so good for him. And I know some other people are psyched too, so that's
I'm
coming
for it.
on Thursday, May 23rd.
Yeah,
also coming on Thursday, May 23rd, the game I'm personally more psyched for, World of Goo 2, is coming to Switch and PC. I was a huge fan of the original World of Goo. I have it on mobile and I have it on on Wii. I don't think I bought it on Wii U or the other thing, but I bought the other games that those guys made under multiple developers' names. So I bought Little Inferno and what was the other one? The programming one. I can't remember what it was called. But I'm a big fan of their aesthetic, and more than anything, I'm a big fan of World of Goo. I love the puzzle mechanics in it. I had a blast with it. Yeah, so I'm really excited. This is the original WiiWare game. This is the sequel to it, so that's really cool. Come on, license them.
Never thought it would get a sequel. It's crazy.
Yeah, it took a while. This is 3 generations, you know. Next up, Atlas. The movie is coming on Friday, May 24th to Netflix. This is the one with Jennifer Lopez, and it's like a mech kind of thing. A lot of people have been comparing it to that one video game, Titanfall. They've been saying it looks like a Titanfall movie or something, but with Jennifer Lopez for some reason.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it looks alright. It's weird seeing like a sci-fi mech movie starring Jennifer Lopez. It's kind of
I mentioned this last when we talked about the trailer that like
I thought it looked like pretty generic. I mean,
I thought it looked really cool, except every time Jennifer Lopez was on screen, it completely took me out of it.
Yeah.
But that's coming on Friday, May 24th to Netflix. Also on Friday, May 24th, Furiosa, a Mad Max saga is coming to theaters. A lot of people are hyped for this.
This is
basically the prequel to Mad Max Fury Road.
This is basically a masterpiece.
It's got a lot of people really psyched and looking forward to it, and that is coming on Friday, May 24th in theaters.
Oh yeah, like right now it's got like let's see what the rotten is. It's 89% Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
36 reviews, so it's pretty up there.
Yeah, it's doing good. That is it for our On the Horizon segment, and now we're moving on to On Beat. On Beat. On Beat is our news segment. We've got quite a few news stories because the upfronts are kind of happening right now. As we speak, upfronts are continuing. We have some news stories from that, and we also got a few trailers and some release dates that were announced. let's get started with Fantastic Four. So this happened basically in 3 separate announcements over the past week.
Yeah.
But 3 actors have been cast in the new Fantastic Four movie.
No, we don't know who they're
None
playing.
of these were announced simultaneously. These are all announced separately. One of them we know who they're playing. That's it. So,
Ralph Ineson. Oh, yeah, that's right.
So Ralph Ineson, we'll say first, is going to be playing Galactus.
Yes. So we have our main villain for the movie. Good choice. I mean, all they have to do is make him giant and purple. So,
if you don't know who Ralph Ineson, he was in Game of Thrones. That's probably his most prominent role that I could point out. He was the guy who betrayed Theon. Like, hit him in the back of the head from behind. It was like kind of giving Theon advice and then hit him from the back of the head when he was trying to make his last stand or whatever and sold him out to the Boltons. That was, Ralph Ineson playing that part. So there you go there. The other actors that have been cast are in mystery roles. We don't know who they're playing, and that is John Malkovich from the movie Being John Malkovich, and Natasha Lyonne, who is actually in one of the movies we're talking about in the trailers later in this news segment. But yeah, they've both been cast. This is not just some big names, but some really like notable names, like some very well respected names. I mean, John Malkovich alone, big respected name. Natasha Lyonne, highly respected person. You know, it's a good sign.
And I should say with the caveat, these people get cast. Whenever like somebody gets cast in one of these movies, people immediately go to like a familiar named character. But these people could be anybody. John Malkovich could be a businessman or something, or you know, like the head of NASA or some crap. You know, like he could be like the head of NASA in this movie. Like it doesn't like mean like they're like some superhero or a villain. Like I remember
he played the head. He played one of the heads of SpaceX in that one sitcom on Netflix.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah,
not SpaceX. I'm sorry. Space Force.
Yeah, Space Force. Yeah, the Space Force. Yeah, because like I remember when William Jackson from The Good Place got cast in Doctor Strange, you know.
Oh yeah, people thought he was going to be...
Or not Doctor Strange, Ant-Man Quantumania.
Yeah, people thought he was going to be Reed Richards.
Yeah, and he was just like some random dude in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Like it was like, yeah. You know, so yeah, we don't know what characters these John Malkovich and Natasha Lyonne are playing. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, though. They are good actors. And Ralph Ineson,
I think their involvement probably speaks well for the pitch, at least how it was pitched to them. Because Natasha Lyonne, for example, is not somebody I would have imagined signing up for an MCU movie.
Oh, same.
So, you know, John Malkovich, he's kind of weird. He'll pick like all sorts of roles, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like ones that aren't necessarily great that you're kind of surprised by, and some they're like, okay, yeah, this totally makes sense for him. So he's a little bit weird, but Natasha Lyonne's pretty consistent. She doesn't, I wouldn't normally imagine her doing an MCU movie, so she must have had a really good pitch.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Next news story, Roadhouse is getting a sequel at Amazon. This is phenomenally successful. We did an episode about it on our podcast. This is a sequel to the remake, not a sequel to the original.
No, yeah. Which also had a sequel. I don't think this is going to be based on that sequel. I don't think it's going to be a remake of the sequel, because that was like a direct-to-video thing.
Unfortunately, it's not going to be based on that sequel.
I mean, this kind of like set itself up for a sequel in a way, because the big like action villain, the MMA fighter.
Yeah, like Conor McGregor, yeah, showed his character like get up and like fight his way out of the hospital. So like he's still around. So I think it might be safe to say he might be involved in the sequel. Yeah.
And then obviously Jake Gyllenhaal is coming back. Should be fun if they got like a good story for it.
I didn't see anything about the director, and that has me a little bit concerned because I know the director. I think it's Doug Liman. I'm not sure about.
Yeah.
I think he was heavily criticizing Amazon for not releasing the movie in theaters.
Yeah, he wanted a theatrical release for it.
So the fact that they don't mention him in anything I've seen about this has me a little bit nervous.
I don't think like he's wrong. I think this did very well for Amazon on Prime Video. I think this would have done very well as a theatrical film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I guess, it's just Amazon's business model doesn't really depend on theaters.
Yeah, but we'll have to see what ends up happening with that. It's just, I'm a little concerned that they didn't mention the director.
Yeah, same.
Next up, John Wick is going to be getting a spin-off starring Donnie Yen, who was a character in the 4th John Wick movie, and it is set to film in Hong Kong in 2025. That's not a release date. 2025 is when it's set to start filming.
Sure, why not? Why not? Everything was spin-offs. I mean, they're already doing the ballerina spin-off. So now
they did the TV series, yeah, the Continental.
Yeah. So now it's like spin-offs.
Yeah, and Donnie Yen's first off is amazing. He's an amazing martial arts actor. But on top of that, his character was one of the most beloved in that movie, in John Wick 4. He was one of the most notable characters in that movie. So it makes sense to reprise that character in some way.
Yeah.
It wouldn't really make sense to put him in another John Wick movie. Like but it makes sense to do something else with him, to follow him on a different journey. There's also kind of a little bit of a tease that happened at the end of John Wick 4, like a post-credit scene that, I was wondering what they were going to do with. Like it seems a little out of place. It's like, this wouldn't really make sense for John Wick 5 if they did a John Wick 5, and it really doesn't make sense for Ballerina from everything I've heard about it. But now I'm like, okay, this could make sense for this.
It's funny, like, Ian McShane was not a fan of the Continental. Yeah, Ian McShane told the trades about the Continental. He said, I would not watch it. He said, I won't watch it. I have no intentions, no way. I don't think Keanu watched it. Neither has Chad. It has nothing to do with our movies. It's just a TV company cashing in on series and taking the option to air. They never asked us about anything, so why would I be interested in seeing
So they didn't actually watch it, is the real key point.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of sad because it actually was a good series.
Yeah.
It was a pretty fun series.
Ian McShane just said, like, it's just a cash-in, and I thought it was a pretty fun series. Yeah. I just thought that was interesting. I was like, oh, okay.
Our next news story, we talked about Shōgun on this podcast, and when we did, we were like, oh, clearly this will never get a second season because it's based on a book, and, if they did something else, they would just go based on one of the other books he's written, which are in different time periods, and so, Shōgun's like a real standalone thing. But then we started hearing all this stuff about Emmy nominations and what category it would go in, and how they were shifting it from limited series to regular series, and everyone's like, well, what's going on with that? And now we've gotten the news that Shōgun is possibly in development for a season 2. It's not confirmed yet, but if it goes through with the second season, apparently Hiroyuki Sanada is already confirmed.
Right. I mean, they do want to, like, lock in their biggest star, right? I mean,
yeah.
Also producer, I'm of two minds about this. One mind is like, I loved Shōgun. It was absolutely fantastic miniseries. And, if they can do more and keep it at that high level of quality, like, certainly. And, like, there's no more book material, but I mean, there is history.
There's history, yeah.
that they can go off of to craft a story. And, I mean, it's fine. They can do that. On the other mind, I'm kind of like feeling that this is a cash in, and they just want to keep the success going. And also, like, I'm kind of like of a mind that I'm kind of happy when things have like a definitive beginning, middle, and end, and like it ends there. Like, it's okay to have a limited series and have that be excellent, and then go off and do something else. Like, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like split in that way on it. I'm willing to keep an open mind and see what happens.
I'm kind of along the grounds of what you are, but I'll add one other thing that's on my mind with it, and that is that if Hiroyuki Sanada is involved, then that makes me a lot more excited at the prospects of it.
He's gonna keep it
fact
faithful.
That he's gonna keep it faithful, and also I want to see him work. So Hiroyuki Sanada is great,
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's funny because like I saw the news that Mortal Kombat 2 is dropping next October of 25.
I still haven't seen that version of Mortal Kombat.
Okay. It's okay. It's alright.
I heard he's the talking point, though. Hiroyuki Sanada's character of Scorpion is like
Hiroyuki Sanada as Scorpion is awesome. He makes an awesome Scorpion. The other highlight is Kano, the dude who plays Kano. He does a fantastic job with that role. He really chews the scenery, and it's fantastic.
Is Johnny Cage in the first one? Because I know he's supposed to be in the second one.
Johnny Cage is not in the first one.
Do you know who's playing him in the second one? one?
Yes, I do. Well, good old Billy Butcher.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not the casting I imagined, because, like...
But anything he's in, again, it's like Hiroyuki Sanada. It's like, if I hear he's working, I'm good. I'm like, good.
Oh, man. Him and Hiroyuki Sanada, like, facing off. That would be awesome. They had a Johnny Cage versus Scorpion fight in the original Mortal Kombat. Let's do that again, because I just want to see Hiroyuki Sanada and, like,
And there's some crossover there, too, because in the new Mortal Kombat game, there's, you can use Scorpion to fight against Homelander.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's some universe crossover.
I want to see Carl Urban fight Hiroyuki Sanada. Yeah. But that's about that. But yeah, back to Shōgun. I mean, if they got a good story for it, and then totally, I'm keeping an open mind.
Yeah. If they got a good story, if they handled the writing well, as they did with the show, which was an adaptation, but they still did a really good job, and they made a lot of changes. And Hiroyuki Sanada is involved in the same capacity, I should say, that he was involved in the first season, like actively involved. If all of that is true, then it could be a very good thing.
Oh yeah. I would also like to see them do adaptations for Clavel's other novels. I mean, those could be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And at least one of them, involves a descendant of Toranaga.
Yeah, one of them's like at the end of the Tokugawa dynasty, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is what Toranaga's based on. So yeah, that's really cool. We'll have to see what ends up happening with that. Next piece of news, Adam Sandler has confirmed that he is doing Happy Gilmore 2 at Netflix.
Okay. I mean, I'm
not too fond of most of what Adam Sandler's done at Netflix.
I feel like Billy Bassett and Happy Gilmore are the movies that put Adam Sandler on the map.
I mean, that's his production company is named after those two movies.
Yeah, exactly.
It's what
Happy Madison Productions. Yeah, exactly. So this kind of looks like he's gone back to that well to mine the nostalgia mines and to mine off like his most successful, most well-remembered films, right? And I'm kind of thinking like this is, I can't help, this is gonna be like a Zoolander 2 or Dumb and Dumber 2, like kind of thing where like this is just gonna be like lazy riffing off of the first movie, they're gonna repeat a bunch of jokes.
There's two things here. One is that there's a concern because Adam Sandler's more recent, like, comedies, like, not counting his dramas, but his comedies have been pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And especially the ones he's done at Netflix have been very lazy. Like, it's almost like he just makes these movies as an excuse. And he always films in places like Hawaii. Yeah. And it's like, I want to take a vacation in Hawaii and bring all my friends with me. So I'm just going to cast them all in a movie and make it.
This is going to be another one of those, and he's just going to use the title and people's like affection for a first movie.
See, that's what I don't know. Like, because I'm worried about it because of that, but I'm curious if the fact that it's a continuation of one of his most successful and popular comedies is going to somehow push him to actually take it more seriously.
Well, I hope so. I hope he's bringing his A game, for this.
Yeah.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah. Next piece of news, Peter Jackson will be producing The Hunt for Gollum with Andy Serkis set to direct and reprise as Gollum.
Yeah.
From Lord of the Rings. So yeah.
This is great. This is going to be adapting a paragraph from the Lord of the Rings novels. Literally.
I mean, Peter Jackson made a trilogy out of the shortest book in the series, or the franchise.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, this is coming from, a mandate by David Zaslav that, he said a while back he wants to double down on their franchises, and he specifically named DC, Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings as what he considers their major franchise, and he wants to get more projects based on those franchises in production. We know they're already going ahead with a live-action Harry Potter series that's going to readapt all the books. And now they're doing this.
The Lord of the Rings thing, it's such a mess because there's such like a mix-up on the rights.
The rights are all over the place. Yeah, this is very much set. This is taking place in the film universe of the original films. This is like kind of like a story like set within like, the films, because that's the rights that Warner Brothers has.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and the stuff that's like outside of the books, like the Silmarillion and the stuff involving like the Second Age or whatever it is, that's with Amazon.
I don't think Amazon actually has the rights to the Silmarillion. They only have the rights, I think, to the appendices.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And that's what Rings of Power is based on.
Yeah. Rings of Power, like that stuff.
And then there's an animated movie by a third company, I believe. Another unrelated company that's been in the works for a while. That, like, there's been trailers out for it. I think that's from the current right holders who bought most of the rights, I believe, for a bunch of money. What was that? Was it connected to Embracer, or was it? I can't remember.
Embracer.
Yeah, it might have been Embracer. I think it was Embracer. I'm not sure. But yeah, like a company that did that, they have an animated movie in the works, I think. I think that's them, because they have some rights too.
Embracer bought a bunch of Lord of the Rings rights too. They might have, I think they have some rights to this, because Embracer put out a press release for this film as well. So I think, like, they're involved with their portion of the rights in this as well.
Okay, the one I'm talking about is called The Lord of the Rings, The War of the, Roram.
Something.
Oh, this is Warner Brothers, actually.
Yeah, that is Warner Brothers. Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, Warner Brothers is doing the animated, and now they're doing this live action one too. But it gets confusing.
But this one's being directed by Kenji Kamiyama. He's an anime director. He did, like, Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, Eden of the East. So, Lord of the Rings rights are a mess. Who knows if this is going to be any good, if this Hunt for Gollum movie is going to be any good. The positive signs are Peter Jackson and Andy Serkis. The negative signs are Peter Jackson and Andy Serkis. Because
the best you could say, like, it does involve the people who made the original trilogy for Warner Brothers.
True,
so it's
but Peter Jackson went on to do the Hobbit movies, which were not great. Yeah. And Andy Serkis directed Venom 2, which was not great.
Yes, which was not, The Hobbit, like, I don't know if I could blame The Hobbit entirely on Peter Jackson, because it was a studio mandate to make that a trilogy, even though it made no sense for that.
Remember that was originally supposed to be Guillermo del Toro was supposed to direct that?
Yes. Guillermo del Toro is unfortunately another major talent in Hollywood who seems to be perpetually cursed, because, like, the amount of projects he gets attached to and then, like, disattached to, or, like, just doesn't end up happening. You could fill a book with those.
But anyways, we'll know more when we start to see stuff from it, but the right people are attached. Hopefully this actually becomes something interesting. I believe the actual Hunt for Gollum that they're referring to is oddly, I don't know how they're going to do this, but it's supposed to mainly focus on Aragorn, actually, I think.
Yeah, it's Aragorn who ends up capturing Gollum and, brings him to the elves. It's funny because, like, I saw, like, the passage for the book about it, and Aragorn basically says it's not even a story worth telling.
So, I'm curious, when it comes to that, if that's what they're going to be doing, are they just going to be reprising the role of Aragorn, or are they going to be recasting him?
Right,
been, more than 20 years?
Yeah, Viggo Mortensen is probably getting up there in years.
I mean, they got de-aging tech and stuff, I guess, but nobody really wants to use that for a whole movie,
Right, yeah, it's gonna have to be for a movie, because, like, again, this is set during the original films, Yeah. You have, like, Viggo Mortensen looking considerably older.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna do it.
Yeah, we'll find out, I'm sure. Next news story is that additional episodes have been ordered for 3 Body Problem at Netflix. The weird thing here is that they phrased it as additional episodes, and they didn't refer to the term season.
They're being kind of cagey about it.
I believe D&D, who are the producers of it, the Game of Thrones producers, said that if they did the entire story, it would take them 3 to 4 seasons.
Yeah,
and the way they're talking about additional episodes makes it sound like it's not even a full season.
It's so weird. This whole thing is so weird, because Netflix announced it for, quote, additional episodes, and then D&D released a statement saying, oh, we're so glad to be able to bring this story to an epic conclusion. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
What do you mean an epic conclusion all of a sudden? Like,
wrap up three books in one, a group of 5 episodes or something.
Commit to calling anything a season? Like, this is such a weird announcement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they also didn't say it was less than a season. Maybe it's multiple seasons. You don't know.
Right. That's what makes it weird. Because, like, they're kind of they're being cagey about it, and D&D are already talking about bringing it to a conclusion. It's like, whoa, what?
Yeah. It's very strange. The last time I remember Netflix talking about additional episodes, what we got was that one extra episode of Sandman. It was good, but it was like, it came pretty quickly and it was like one episode, right? Or was it one or two? It was like one episode.
No, it was just one extra episode.
But it was like 2 stories, right?
Yeah, I believe it was, because it was like an animated story and then another live action story.
Yeah, so it's like, is that what we're going to be getting? Are we going to be getting an animated conclusion to the 3-body problem in a single episode? Like, what is...
Right, it's going to be an anime. Yeah, I have no clue. It's weird. Like I said, like, this is the weirdest announcement they could have made.
Yeah, we'll have to find out. I mean, I never heard too much about how well 3-body problem went and how well it did. I've watched a few episodes of it and then I got off track because other stuff
Can't have done that well because Netflix is usually very loud about the stuff that, like, really pops off on their platforms.
I don't think it necessarily did too well.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Which makes me a little nervous.
Yeah, the Hollywood Reporter's headline is, this is the headline on the Hollywood Reporter's website. 3-body problem renewed for additional episodes to conclude the Netflix series.
That's about what we know.
It doesn't sound like it's going to be a 4-season series.
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's enough, but, D&D aren't necessarily known for finishing very well.
Right. Maybe they got, like, another deal and they're trying to hurry this up now.
Yeah, who knows? Disney's gonna put them back on Star Wars, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But anyways, that is it for our regular news. We also have some dates that were revealed. We got 3 from Marvel and 1 from DC. Agatha All Along, which isn't just a date. We also got a new name in the cycle of, I think this is its 4th or 5th name?
It is, and there's a reason for that, and the reason becomes very apparent when you watch, like, the latest trailer for it, because the other names were not real names. It was all this long con meme to get to this point where they revealed the actual title of the show, which is Agatha All Along.
Which was the obvious answer the whole time.
Yep, and the meta joke was that Agatha was messing with the show's title this entire time, and that's why you kept getting the different titles.
Oh, that Agatha.
Right, yeah.
But that's going to be coming.
Give credit. It was a clever marketing stick. It worked out well.
But that's going to be coming on September 18th to Disney Plus. That's first 2 episodes dropping on September 18th, and then week to week after that. We also got the date on Daredevil Born Again, or like kind of a date. We got a month. It's going to be coming in March 2025, and we also got Ironheart is going to be coming in 2025. We only got a year for Ironheart, so progressively less information. Agatha All Along, we got the date. Daredevil, we got the month. Ironheart, we got the year.
Right, yeah. But it does bear out what Kevin Feige and Bob Iger said recently, where we see 2025, there's only 2 series scheduled. That's what they said they want. Mm-hmm. Going forward is about at least two series a year, 2 to 3 movies per year.
I wonder if they're counting their non-canon stuff, not MCU canon stuff in that. Like, are they counting?
I don't think X-Men.
Like X-Men 97 or
I don't think that counts in that.
Yeah.
I think
that, What If, which is kind of maybe
I think
not.
That statement is like exclusively referring to like the live action stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they're referring to animation when they say that.
Yeah, hopefully. But anyways, we'll see. Those when they happen. Agatha All Along I'm excited for, but I'm kind of now cautiously excited for because the Marvel live action TV show stuff hasn't been hitting too hard recently,
Right, yeah. I mean, Catherine Hahn is great. I mean, so...
I love the character of Agatha. WandaVision is my favorite of all of the MCU TV shows.
Right, oh yeah.
I absolutely adored that. The fact that it's the same showrunner involved in it, it's the same actress who played the antagonist is going to be featured in this one, that it's carrying on plot lines that are connected to WandaVision, not just Agatha, but also like Wanda's kids and stuff. Like, so there's a lot of stuff that's like interesting to me and a lot of people that I'm excited to be doing this. They've also made a comment, the showrunner made a comment about how they were pushing for as little CG as possible, trying to do as much practical.
Oh, well, that's good, yeah.
Which is kind of like, almost like a meta about the fact that the one flaw of WandaVision was the way it ended in a big CG battle.
Right, yeah, exactly.
So, like, kind of like pushing against that is like a good sign too.
We should also know, like, with this announcement, with these upfronts, they also debuted a new branding for these projects. They're now under under Marvel Television instead of Marvel Studios.
Yeah, which makes sense. I just hope that doesn't mean they're deep canonizing all this stuff.
Right, yeah.
But we'll see what they end up doing with it. Marvel's really kind of reorganizing in a lot of ways. We talked about the Fantastic Four stuff at the top of the news segment. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to all this stuff. I'm just a bit more cautious than I would have been, 2 years ago.
Because they've had, like, some real misses in, like, the television streaming department.
Echo.
Secret Invasion. Cough. Oh, yeah. Echo, yeah. Was not good.
Woof, Secret Invasion.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the other date that was announced was Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, which will be coming on
I would say that this is Warner Brothers, DC. So this is not Marvel Studios dating this.
No, Marvel Studios announced the date.
Yeah.
Strangely,
yeah. Kevin Feige was like, look forward to Supergirl.
And everyone went, what?
Yeah, this is coming out June 26th. This is almost a full year after Superman comes out, because that's dated currently for July 2025.
And Superman's not the first thing in the new DCEU, right? Like, isn't there like an animated thing coming first or something?
Creature Commandos is going to be hitting first. But
is that a TV series?
Yes, that's an animated TV series.
Okay. So Superman's the first, like, movie.
Superman's the first film that's going to drop. And this will be the second film now in sequence. So really interesting. James Gunn is choosing to lead with the Super Family for this new DCEU, which makes sense. They're DC's first family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we know from previous news that Supergirl is going to star Millie Alcock of first half of season 1 of House of Dragon. Yeah. It was fantastic.
It was a little bit sad when they aged them out and replaced the actors in House of Dragon. They kind of had to for the time skip and stuff, but it was kind of like, I really liked Millie Alcock in that role.
Yeah, she was like really crushing it in that role. So
yeah.
So I know she's going to do great things in this film.
Yeah, exciting news. And we know what she looks like as a blonde.
Yes, exactly.
And now we're moving on to our trailers. So we've got 5 trailers, some pretty big ones. We had more trailers, but we trimmed the list down. We've got 5 here, starting off with Megalopolis, which is absolutely crazy. This is Francis Ford Coppola.
This is a new, apparently unmarketable film from Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, so Francis Ford Coppola's been trying to get this made for a while. It's been running into a lot of resistance from studios. Kind of went outside of the Hollywood studio system in order to get this made. But it's got a huge, just absolutely massive cast. And it's got a pretty interesting premise. And from the trailer that we saw, this is the first trailer for it, it looks like gorgeous. It's absolutely stunning, you know? It's got kind of like a futuristic kind of thing going on. It's apparently it's about like an architect trying to rebuild New York after like a major disaster is apparently the plot. And we don't really know too terribly much beyond that. I think Adam Driver is playing the said architect.
It's got like a very like dream-like quality to it.
Oh yeah, we've seen there's stuff in the trailer with like statues that are like moving and stuff, and there's just all sorts of weird stuff going on in the trailer, like time freezes. It almost look kind of Matrix-esque at certain points, and just all sorts of weird stuff visually going on.
Right.
And huge cast. I mean, like Aubrey Plaza, Lawrence Fishburne, you know, like a lot of big name people in this movie. Dustin Hoffman. And as we said, Adam Driver. So, yeah, I mean, it looks good. This will be interesting to see what this turns out to be like, because apparently it was pretty expensive. Hollywood did not want to make this. They didn't know how to market it. We'll have to see if this is successful and if it's good. Those are like 2 separate points it has to prove itself on. The next trailer we got was for South Park, The End of Obesity. This is the next South Park animated movie special for Paramount Plus. I haven't watched like the last like 2 or 3 because I just haven't had a subscription. I've been waiting for a good opportunity to get a new subscription. Maybe that time is near. Maybe that time is now. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
I wanted to talk about this one though because I knew the second I saw the title that this was going to be about Ozempic. And I have taken Ozempic. I did not take it for obesity, although I was obese when I took it. I took Ozempic for diabetes, and then I wasn't able to take it anymore because everybody was taking it for obesity.
Yeah, that's kind of been in the news recently about Ozempic, like being used as a weight loss drug.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, this is South Park doing its thing, doing it the topical humor.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what their take on it's going to be. I think the whole thing, what it really comes down to is like, if it can make people healthier, and people are concerned about side effects of Ozempic and stuff like that, but if it can make people healthier that would otherwise not be healthier, then my stance is it's probably a good thing. It's bad that people that need this medication for diabetes are being deprived it because of that, but thankfully there's other medications that kind of do the same thing towards the weight loss ends that Ozempic does. I think Wegovy is one that's specifically for weight loss. That's not really useful for diabetes. It's designed for that perspective. So I don't know, but I'm interested to see what South Park's take on it is, because this actually is relevant to my life. But yeah, South Park, always funny, or almost always funny, depends, I guess, on your position on certain issues. But I should be getting my Paramount Plus subscription again so I can watch through all those specials I've missed and watch this one, The End of Obesity. Next trailer we got was for Dune Prophecy, which is supposed to be coming, I believe, later this year. And we got a trailer for it. This is a Dune spin-off TV series for Max that's going to be like a prequel that's it's also based on a book. It's not like written off of original material or anything like that. But it's following that order, the Ben Gesserit.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which is that order of women that are kind of like nuns with magical powers.
Right, yeah.
So yeah.
And this focuses on them.
Yeah, this is based on the novel The Sisterhood of Dune, which wasn't written by Frank Herbert, but was written by his son Brian Herbert.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like a Silmarillion situation, I guess, where Silmarillion was mainly written by J.R.R. Tolkien's son.
Yeah, exactly. You know, like basically from J.R.R. Tolkien's notes.
Yeah. So we got our trailer for that. It looks like really high production value. I wonder how much Denis Villeneuve is involved in this, if at all. But, you know, the Dune movies are good. We're going to be talking about Dune 2 next week. So, I guess we can bring up what we think the prophecy might end up being like after you see that. I don't know. We might talk about this a little bit more next week as well, then. But what did you think of the trailer?
Oh, I thought it looked good. Looked fantastic. Looked like Dune.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Next, we got a trailer the next two trailers, I should say, dropped on the same day, which isn't too crazy because it's upfronts. It's only just a little bit crazy because these two series, their first season for both of these series aired around the same time, almost exactly. They crossed over. I think one of them came like a week before the other one, but they were kind of airing at the same time. And they're both major fantasy series with extremely high budgets and kind of the top priority projects for both of their selective streaming services. So we're going to start things off with The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, which got its trailer for its second season. A lot of Lord of the Rings fans were not happy with Rings of Power. I believe when we talked about it, we were both kind of more along the lines of like, it isn't great, but it also isn't as bad as people were making it up.
No, it isn't bad. It's fine. It's perfectly entertaining. It's obviously got great visuals. I mean, that's best.
The production values are through the fucking roof.
Yes, they spent a lot of money on it, but yeah, I thought the narrative was pretty weak and stuff. So like, it wasn't like great. It was fine. It was my like verdict.
It looks like from the trailer, at least for this season, it looks a lot more focused.
Yes.
Than the last season. And that was probably the biggest problem with the first season.
I think the problem was like, they didn't like really have Sauron as a villain. Like Sauron was obviously like there. Everybody like thought he was gone and was just carrying on like, you know, that.
It just seemed almost like random plot threads.
Yeah, it's just like different plot threads. And I think now that we got that out of the way and that Sauron has revealed himself as the big threat, I think that now they can like all focus these threads on that, I suppose.
What's interesting is they didn't, I believe, unless I missed it, I don't think they showed at all the one Hobbit character, or not Hobbit, I guess, a related race to the Hobbits called something else, a Harfoot, I think, maybe. And the wizard character, which was kind of like the focus of the first season. I don't think they were in this trailer at all. Like, I didn't notice them.
They weren't. You're right.
Which is curious because I'm sure they're going to be in it, there were some big revelations about, that amnesiac Paul character, the mysterious character. There's some big revelations about him at the end of the season. So I'm curious, how they're going to fit in. But, with a more focused story, it'd be interesting to see how they fit in. So I don't know. Maybe they just didn't want to show them because they're a little bit more distanced from the main plot that's happening. And they didn't want to. They wanted the trailer to be more focused,
Right. Oh, yeah.
That's my guess, at least. But yeah, hey, I'm looking forward to this. I know a lot of people, like I said, a lot of Lord of the Rings fans absolutely despise this series. I don't think it's nearly as bad as they make it out to be. While not being perfect by any means, it is okay. And I'm kind of actually excited on where they could take this. There's some really cool visuals and shots in this trailer. Some cool uses of magic that we saw in this trailer. So yeah, I'm actually kind of looking forward to it.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And then we got a trailer for the one that I think most people are actually excited about, which is House of the Dragon for its second season. This is interesting because this is one of the few projects that was going during the strike because it's not set to American union rules because it doesn't film here and most of the production isn't involved here.
Yeah. Yeah. And the scripts were, for the season were actually finished before the writer's strike happened.
Mm-hmm.
And the actors weren't under American union rules, so that's why they were. And then, of course, there was no director's strike, so the Directors Guild, so the directors weren't affected. They got lucky with this show. And that's why, they're able to deliver season 2 on time.
Yeah, season 2, from what I've seen in the trailer, looks about as good as you'd expect. It's not like I didn't see anything that shocked me. I didn't see anything that disappointed me. It looks like more House of Dragon. It looks like what I expected. It looks like big battles. It looks like big dragons. It looks like big politics.
Oh, yeah.
Which is everything we want, right?
It's going to be fantastic. Yeah, it's going to be more show of the year material, I'm sure.
I guess the most interesting thing we saw in the trailer is that we saw a Stark and we saw the wall.
We saw, exactly. I was like, oh, that's a Stark.
And that made me stark raving mad. The only thing that gives me pause is that it was Tony Stark.
Yeah, that's a bold choice, but we'll see where they go with that.
But that is it for our trailer segment, and that leaves our final segment on tap.
What we've been watching. What we've been playing. What's on tap.
On Tap is kind of like our full spoiler segment, except not in full spoilers, which is obvious from the title. It's where we talk about stuff we've watched, played, whatever, in, recent times, but in less spoilerific territory as far as the discussion goes. We're going to be kind of just covering our general impressions and what we thought of these things, and also, whatever other topics relate to them that come up in the conversation. But we're going to be starting things out with Monkey Man, which is the directorial debut of Dev Patel. He's also the main star in it. This was produced by Jordan Peele, who picked this up because it was originally going to be on a streaming service, I believe. And then he picked it up and he got it into a theatrical release.
Yeah.
And, this was kind of, when the trailers first came out for this, people were like, oh, it's, Indian John Wick. And in many ways, that's true. And in many ways, it's kind of its own thing. But it kind of goes along with, we did a series of podcasts where we called them the Baba Yaga effect, where we would review a John Wick movie, but also a movie that was kind of inspired by the John Wick movies. And I think Monkey Man totally fits into that category, but it's not like a John Wick ripoff. It's its own thing, but it still kind of fits within that category of a John Wick I'll use the video game terms, how we have roguelikes, it's a John Wick-like. But, Monkey Man is good. It's a very good movie. It's got a good plot. It's got a good story. It's got a sympathetic lead who's interesting. It has an interesting backstory. It's tied into, Indian mythology, which in an interesting way, which is pretty good, without ever being fantastical about it. But in the end, it's just a good revenge story with some cool action and, the talent or the country of India acting as a really cool set piece. And that's Monkey Man. That's all I'm going to say about that because I don't want to get into a bunch of spoilers on it and ruin the movie for my co-host here. But the next movie I'm going to be talking about is another John Wick-like, and that is Boy Kills World. And this stars Bill Skarsgård and H. John Benjamin in the same role, basically. Bill Skarsgård being the actual character and H. John Benjamin being his inner monologue because he's deaf and creates an inner monologue to narrate his story. This is also a John Wick-like, but it's kind of one of the more comedic John Wick-likes. It's kind of more of a fun comedic action movie that has like a really kind of twisted and interesting turn at the end, which I'm not going to spoil. I'm just going to say about half of the twist is obvious. Like as you're watching the movie, as I was watching the movie, I see a character and I'm like, oh, that character is totally going to be this thing. You know, like I knew it like immediately upon seeing a character that like I knew kind of where it was going, but I didn't see the entire picture of where things were going with it. And it went somewhere pretty delightful and interesting in a way that when I actually looked back at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, oh, they actually did some kind of interesting things to set that up. Like that I was kind of like curious, like why they did certain things early in the movie in a certain way. And then by the end, I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like now, like looking back, like they really set that up well. So that's about all I'll say without getting into like a bunch of spoilers on it again. I just want to say it's really good. It's really fun. It's got kind of like a bit of a Running Man vibe to it. If you've seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie Running Man, from the 80s, it's got kind of a bit of a, like that kind of style and vibe to it. And also kind of, like I said, kind of John Wick-esque as well. Very cool. Next up is The Fall Guy. So this movie, to carry on with the John Wick trend, was directed by one of the John Wick directors, David Leitch, who is a stuntman. He was, I believe it was Brad Pitt's stunt double in like Fight Club and some other movies, before becoming a director and getting involved with the John Wick movies. He did one of the John Wick movies, I think. I'm not sure. I think he co-directed the first one or something. He went on, he directed like Bullet Train and some other movies. All good. And, this is kind of his homage to stuntmen. So I'll say right off the bat, this is a remake of the TV series, The Fall Guy, which was about a stuntman as well. But this one is kind of really centered and focused on kind of honoring stuntmen because that's what the director used to be. He used to be a stuntman, and it's kind of paying a lot of respect to stuntmen and kind of what they do. And, it's fun. It's got a good action storyline going on. It's got a lot of good comedy in it. It's got very likable leads in Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. It's got like some really annoying characters like Aaron Taylor Johnson's character who plays the actor who Ryan Gosling's character is doubling for as a stuntman. I say annoying, but like in a good way, like he's supposed to be that way, you know? And, it's a really cool stunt movie. And one of the things that's so cool about it is they went out of their way to try to break certain records when it comes to stunts. So there's like a record for the number of flips a car gets launched and flips in the air a number of times. And the previous record was held by, one of the James Bond movies. I don't remember which one of the modern ones, Daniel Craig ones, held the record for this flip thing, and they beat the record for this movie. So it's kind of cool that this movie that's about stuntmen and about kind of honoring what stuntmen do actually broke like a key record with a stunt. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
And the next thing we're going to be talking about is what you've been watching, Will. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I've been watching Chucky Season 3. Chucky goes to the White House, and it's as insane as you can imagine from that premise.
I know I saw like in pictures, there's like a Chucky who looks all withered and diseased or something.
Yeah, that's part of the plot. I'm not going to give that away. Although they pretty much explain it in episode 3 of the season completely. But yeah, Chucky's in the White House. Devon Sawa returns as the President of the United States.
Is this a separate character? Because I didn't see season 2 either. Is this a separate character from the other 2 he played?
Yes.
Okay,
I'm not going to spoil the Devon Sawa thing then. The whole bit with Devon Sawa in the series. And then, like, all the other leads return from the previous seasons as well. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. All the stuff involving Chucky in the White House was great. And especially, like, with, like, the president and the president's family, like, there are some genuinely, like, emotional and dramatic moments in this show. This show can, like, really, like, get, like, really emotional in a good way, which is kind of surprising. And of course, being Chucky, there's all kinds of gory kills. Like, Chucky probably has, like, the highest body count in this season of any season. I mean, it's fantastic. The only things, like, I didn't like is, Jennifer Tilly's, like, subplot. It wasn't that good. It kind of sucked. also, like, the three leads of the series didn't really seem to, like, factor in that much. Like, they were there, but it didn't seem like they were, like, really doing anything that moved the plot forward in any meaningful way. Like, just kind of like, yeah, they were there, but they're there.
I want you to tell me about the ending, because apparently, without spoiling it, obviously, apparently there was like a phone number, and if you call the phone number, it's like a petition to like get the show a fourth season.
Oh yeah, the ending stinger, and this has nothing to do with the plot, so I'm just gonna spoil it.
Okay.
'Cause it has nothing. It's just a stinger attached to the end of the show. Like, it's not a part of like the actual show or like the plot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just Chucky in the White House desk, dressed as a president, and saying, you know, oh yeah, we've completed a successful third term, and now I need you, and now I'm campaigning for a fourth term, and we need you to call this number and let them know that you want Chucky. Like, that was basically it.
Okay.
And the other thing I will say about Chucky Season 3 is I hated the final episode of the season. I hated it. I thought, like, I was like on such a high leading into it, going into it. And then I just like, oh man, that was terrible.
Did it ruin it, or was it just a bad episode?
It's just a bad episode. I don't think it ruins it for me. All the stuff leading up to it's still great. It didn't ruin it. It's just like, it's a weird ending. It's weird. I will say that.
Okay. I'm curious. So we might be talking about this again come October.
Yeah.
We're talking about possibly getting through at least season 2 for me in October for the, I'll commit to that we'll do season 2 on the podcast in October. Maybe season 3 as well. But yeah, the next thing we're going to be talking about is Abigail. So this is from the directors of Ready or Not, which I thoroughly love. That was a really good horror movie. One of the horror movies that I really enjoyed recently. They also went on to direct the 2 most recent Scream movies, and this stars Melissa Barrera from those said Scream movies, and it has Kevin Durand, who was in Lost. He was Kimi in Lost. Giancarlo Esposito is also in this, and Dan Stevens, who I knew was in this, but I'd completely forgotten it. And like, when you see him early in the movie, everyone's kind of in darkness, and he's got kind of this weird accent, and because of that, I could not, like, I was like, why does that guy look so familiar? Who is he? And I couldn't, and then like I realized, oh shit, yeah, it's Dan Stevens. I knew he was in the movie, and I just had completely forgotten. And then once you get a better look at him, I'm like, oh yeah, obviously that's Dan Stevens.
That's funny.
I think it's a really fun horror movie.
Good cast.
Yeah, I think it's a very fun horror movie. It just isn't all that surprising, and unfortunately that comes down to the fact that you already know the twist.
Right, because they advertise the twist.
The twist is heavily advertised. And the thing is it takes a while to get to that twist.
Oh, really?
So you're watching it going like, oh, when are they going to get to it? When are they going to get to it? When are they going to get to it? And they get to it, it's like halfway through the movie or something.
That's weird for like the thing that you marketed the entire movie based on.
Yeah. It takes a while to get to it. So, I guess it's too late now since we just said
it's kind of like
if you can go in blind.
If you can go in blind, yeah, like that kind of like reminds me a lot of From Dusk Till Dawn, which I did go in without knowing anything about it.
Oh, you did go in not knowing it. Okay.
Yeah, when I first watched it, because like, it starts off as like a crime caper, and all this, and then all of a sudden halfway through the movie, it's vampires.
Yeah. See, I knew about that.
Which was like kind of like a crazy twist, like when I first saw it first, I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, I like big twists that come out of like nowhere like that and stuff, so.
Yeah.
I really liked it From Dusk Till Dawn, but I knew it was coming in From Dusk Till Dawn. I knew it was coming in Abigail.
Yeah, right. Yeah, from what you're talking about, like the movie's set up to have that twist, to have that surprise factor, but it's not because of the marketing.
Yeah, I don't think this movie did too well, which is kind of disappointing because there was some talk about a sequel, and based on the way the movie lets off, and based on some of the things some of the actors were saying, it actually kind of sounded like a sequel might be kind of interesting. But I don't think it really did that well, so I think that's kind of unlikely now.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, very unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I've heard some mixed reactions to this. A lot of people thought it just could have been more inventive. It could have done more. And it's like, I agree with all of that. This isn't as good as Ready or Not. I'll just say that as an example, since that's the other movie I've seen from these directors. I haven't seen the recent Scream movies, so I can't really comment on that. But I can comment on Ready or Not, because I loved Ready or Not. And this is not as good as Ready or Not. Just flat out it isn't. But I I'd like to see more of it. I enjoyed it. I thought there was some cool funny bits, some good horror bits, some really good gore, and just some cool stuff in general. I like the way they handled some of the vampire powers. You know, like vampire powers is like a huge mixed bag depending on what version of what vampire you're seeing in what movie. You know what I mean? Like it's always different. Like it's the rules of how you kill a vampire are always different. The rules about, what vampires can do is always different. And they came up with some interesting kind of like lore set almost for like how vampires work that isn't fully explained, but enough is explained that makes it interesting, and enough is left vague to make you go, oh, okay, there's more they could mine here, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I'd recommend it. I think it's a good movie. It's just don't expect to be blown away. And then the last thing we're going to be talking about on tonight's podcast is Dead Boy Detectives. We talked about this when the trailer came out for it, and I think when it was announced too, we talked about it. Just that it was kind of like a Neil Gaiman story based on somewhat connected to Sandman, and then we got the trailer which showed, oh wait, this is directly connected to Sandman. It's got the same actor playing Death in both of these, and Sandman and Dead Boy Detectives are both Netflix shows, so it's like, okay, this is going to be interesting. How is this going to cross over? Where is this going to connect? It really doesn't cross over that much. Death only has like one or two scenes in the whole thing. Right. I think just really one scene actually, like in the first episode, and that's it. That's the only time you really see Death. There is like a connection to Death in it. There is another character from Sandman that you see. Another one of Dream's siblings shows up in this as well, and kind of a interesting role where it's like we know who the character is, but like the character that encounters them doesn't know anything about them. So that kind of makes it interesting. It's like, oh wow, like and it almost has kind of like a quasi meta quality to it without actually being meta in like a really kind of interesting, cool way. It does a good depiction of hell. You see hell in this show. It looks a little different from what we saw in Sandman. We're seeing a very specific area of hell, and it's got its own section. It's kind of cool. When I was first watching the show, I'm like, there's some stuff in here that's kind of cheesy. Some stuff that's very like teen show. You know what I mean? In like kind of a bit of a cringy way that I was kind of like, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. Like there's things I like about it. There's things I'm kind of like iffy about. But it kind of became one of those things as the series went on. It's similar to like something like, say, Doctor Who, where if you first jump into Doctor Who, you're going to be like, ooh, there's a lot of cheesy stuff in here. There's a lot of kind of cringy stuff. There's a lot of like weird choices and like bad special effects and different kinds of, and then as it goes on, you get kind of hooked into it and you don't care about that stuff.
Right.
Because you're hooked on to like the characters and their arcs, and that makes it more interesting. And that is definitely the case here with Dead Boy Detectives. I compare it directly to Doctor Who in that way, in the way that like you can look at it objectively and go, oh, this was kind of corny and this was kind of cheesy and stuff like that. But like when you actually just watch it, it's actually quite enjoyable. So that is my comments on Dead Boy Detectives, and that ends our podcast for the week. Next week, we are going to be talking about Dune 2. If you didn't know already, Dune 2 is going to be hitting HBO Max, or just Max. Just Max now, right? It's just Max.
It's just Max.
But Dune 2 is going to be hitting Max next Tuesday. We record this podcast every Wednesday, so it's coming out on Tuesday, and that's what we're going to be discussing on next Wednesday's podcast. So look forward to that. Until then, thank you everybody for listening. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Tyson Gifford. Will is at VoxelHero. You can check out our website, thetotalscreen.com. If you go to our website and open up any container story for any of our podcast episodes, scroll down to the last paragraph. You'll find all the links, all the relevant links to our SoundCloud page, our RSS feed, everything you need to check out our podcast or any of our additional content on our website. You can also go to our YouTube channel where you can find every episode of our podcast, as well as our last podcast and additional content, including like reviews of, Game of Thrones and Hannibal and other stuff. It's all on there. You can check that out. And you can subscribe to the podcast to your favorite podcast client of choice, like Apple Podcasts and Pocket Cast. So you can do that as well. Thank you everybody for listening. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you for listening to the OnScreen podcast, the official podcast of The Total Screen. Visit our website at thetotalscreen.com. This podcast can be found on any major podcast client, including Pocket Cast and Apple Podcast. The entire backlog of this podcast and other content can be found on our YouTube channel.